For millennia, the Western Abenaki people have called this land home. They have loved and cared for this land, and now we have the privilege of gathering in this religious community. So let us do so, honoring this legacy of love and stewardship. Good morning. I'm Sarah Franklin, your worship associate this morning. Happy to be here. On behalf of the whole worship team, I'm very glad to welcome you to our own Thomas Silloway designed sanctuary. Both those of you who are able to be here and assemble with us, and those of you watching on live stream. We appreciate your presence and fellowship. For over 155 years, this church has been a sanctuary for those seeking spiritual sustenance, as well as peace and justice in the wider world. We invite you to continue with us today on that path. Please know that for those of you who could use them, there are hearing assist devices available on the table in the rear of the sanctuary for anyone who would find them helpful. It's always a pleasure to have newcomers with us and guests. If this is your first or second time attending, you are invited to stand or just wave your hand so we can see where you are and offer you a special welcome. Thank you. We are glad you are here. Newcomers are invited to fill out a welcome form, which is available after the service at the coffee hour, and we can then connect you with you more fully. Of course, everyone is invited to the coffee hour following the service. Victoria Batten is the lay pastoral caregiver available today. Thank you, Victoria. If you have a personal concern, challenge, or loss that calls for support and the prayers of our spiritual community, you can look for Victoria after the service and share more deeply. And I'm sure many of us here have already registered our beloved former, whoops, that's not happening this week. It's maybe a surprise for next week. A special guest. Now we can all join in the welcoming by taking a few moments to turn to our neighbors in nearby pews and welcoming them. It is a whole lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun to see you from here as you greet each other, because you are so good at that. Oh, my word. Thank you. You are invited to continue those conversations during the coffee hour right after the service. And now, let's take a deep breath. Make sure that our cell phones are turned off and enter more deeply into our time of worship with the prelude.
For our opening words this morning, I invite you to join me in a responsive reading, which you can find in this purple book in your pews. This is one we don't use often, and so I'm excited to bring it to your attention. You can look around for it in your pews. And if you need to share with a neighbor, please do that. It's number 24. These are words by Kathleen McTeague, and I will read the text, the regular text, and invite you to respond with the text in italics. Here in the refuge of this Sabbath home, we turn our busy minds toward silence and our full hearts toward one another. In our slow walk between the two, we will be wounded, and we will be showered with grace, amazing, unending. Even in our sorrows, we feel our lives cradled in wholeness we cannot comprehend. And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we do not walk alone. This is a holy place in which we gather, the light of the earth brought in and held, touched then by our answering light. The flame on the chalice, the flicker of a candle, the lamps of our open faces are brought near. In this place of silence and celebration, solemnity and music, we make the sanctuary and the name our home. And let us join now in our opening hymn. This is, I think, a familiar one to many. I've got Peace Like a River. If it feels familiar to you, I invite you not to use your hymnal and to instead let your hands be free. You can join in the movements that go with this song. There will be slides that indicate the words that need to be added to each verse. It's number 100 in the gray hymnal for anyone who needs it. Please rise in body or spirit.
Peace
light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. We invite those of you at home to light a chalice on your own if you have one handy. We light this flame, an enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Thank you, Eric. Some of you may remember that Eric rescued us last week when we were having a little difficulty with our chalice, and so this week we had him right handy, so we knew things would go well. Thank you, Eric Oberg. And now let us join our voices in saying these words of affirmation, which you'll find in your program. They are written by Griswold Williams. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant.
And now I'd like to invite all the children and youth to join me in the Children's Chapel. We're not having our regular classes today. We're doing something exciting, helping out for the holiday. Well, not yet. Okay. Let me try that over. Okay. Good morning. I would like to invite all the children and youth and any adults who also would like to join us in the Children's Chapel for some activities that are equally as fun as your classes every week, but they'll be a little bit different. So if you would, y'all come and the rest of you sing, and we'll see you later.
Such a sacred moment, holding our children in our hearts as they go. We are a congregation that cares for and supports one another deeply. The ministry of caring is one that we are all invited into, and that so many of you participate in, both formally and informally. And we also benefit as a community to have some of our members trained in and committed to the ministry of caring. The lay pastoral care ministry team is an extension of the minister and shares in the ministry of caring that I lead. The team is trained in the skills of active listening and providing a pastoral presence. They provide support during challenging times and offer what is often the first line of response in times of crisis and ongoing support. They are also a primary pastoral care support network during times that I am away, including during my upcoming 5-week sabbatical. I would like to now introduce our lay pastoral care team as we take a moment this morning to recognize them and to commission them in their service to the congregation for this church year. Our lay pastoral care coordinators this year are Mary Jane Olson and Ruth Whitty. And if you would please stand and remain standing, Mary Jane and Ruth. And joining Mary Jane and Ruth as caregivers this year are Betty McKinnell, Dawn Evans, Denise Bailey, Gail Picard, and Victoria Batten. And if you would all please come up to the chancel. As they come forward, I'll mention that Gail Picard isn't able to be with us this morning, but we do have her photo that we will share in just a moment so that you can have a face and a name. Our team is collecting themselves. Perfect, thank you. So there are many reasons that you might want to talk to a lay pastoral caregiver. Some of these reasons include major life transitions, like the death of a loved one, a divorce, job loss, financial strain, or chronic or terminal illness. Other reasons might be that you'd like to have conversations about spirituality, or that you're continuing to struggle with some long-standing circumstance, or perhaps you'd like to talk with someone who can simply listen, ask meaningful questions, and care for your spirit in a pastoral and gentle way. Our lay pastoral caregivers provide a listening, caring space for reflection about your emotional and spiritual journey. And each of these team members was chosen or recommended because of their commitment to the congregation and their ability to listen and be present. This is their ministry. And now we commission the lay pastoral care team in their role as spiritual leaders and listeners. And so I'm not able to make eye contact with you, but I'm going to ask you all a question. Betty, Dawn, Mary Jane, Victoria, Denise, and Ruth, are you committed to offering and encouraging pastoral care within this congregation? Will you lead by example in your actions and in your words, in your pastoral presence and in your personal spiritual life? Will you reach out to those in need with open minds and open hearts, seeking always to be a healing presence? If so, please say, I will. And I want to give the congregation a chance to respond. I ask you, the congregation, will you place your trust in these caregivers? Will you allow yourself, perhaps even challenge yourself, to ask for their care and to receive their care? Will you honor them with the role and responsibilities of lay ministry? If so, please answer, we will. So our lay pastoral caregivers are available every Sunday here in the sanctuary after the service, and they're also available to meet throughout the week at whatever time might be most convenient for you. Today, they'll be gathering in the fireplace room during coffee hour for an informal meet and greet time before the fireside chat, so you can have a moment to say hello. And there are also others in our congregation who have volunteered to provide practical kinds of help in times of need and crisis. And thank you to Paula Gills, who is coordinating this kind of support through our caring network. Please be in touch with Paula if you have a need or would like to volunteer. And thank you to all of you who have shared in both asking for and receiving help, as well as offering your support in so many ways. This ministry of caring truly builds a loving community. Thank you, and thank you, lay pastoral care team.
And now for some announcements. You have found some, I think, in your e-news, and here are two in particular that we would like to direct your attention toward. First, the lay pastoral care team whom you just met, will be hosting a fireside chat on the topic of surviving the holidays. The holidays are so fraught with unrealistic expectations, stress, loneliness, and other distractions. Come and join us in sharing experiences and finding helpful solutions. Second, Reverend Joan will be leading an introductory session on Unitarian Universalist history and theology at 11:30, right after the service, in the Children's Chapel. And newcomers to UCM are especially welcome. Snacks will be provided. There's a third event that is noteworthy, and that is that this Tuesday evening at 5 p.m., Reverend Joan, along with UCM members Harris Webster and Peter Toms, will facilitate a sharing circle for compassionate listening about our responses to the current conflict in Israel and Palestine. This will be a time for UCM members and friends to engage in open-hearted sharing and listening. And I, with the associates worship person's privilege, would like to direct your attention to tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here in our vestry, and that is the Women's Alliance's sponsorship of a wonderful performance by Linda Radke called From the Parlor to the Polling Place. She's a singer and historian who will be showing us and singing for us those songs that helped to win, finally, the vote for women. So I hope you can join us then, 7 o'clock in the vestry tomorrow night. And there are many additional announcements, as you know, so please consult your weekly e-news. Oops. Now it's time for the offering. Generosity is a spiritual practice central to the well-being of our church community. With our collective resources, our free church gratefully supports the shared values of the congregation. Each month, the UCM Community Pouch Program shares part of our collection with a church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. And as you'll see in your program today, the group which will share the pouch this week is the Abnaki Circle of Courage. It's in its 30th year of teaching the culture of Abnaki folk, and it models generosity, mastery, belonging, and interdependence based on the Reclaiming Youth at Risk model, which has been adapted to represent Abnaki values. There are 53 youth enrolled who meet each week, and they are taught respect for Mother Earth, along with traditional Abnaki dancing with drummers. The youth travel around Vermont to perform and help teach others about Abnaki culture. So that's where our pouch goes this week. And I see that all of you have already moved the pouches along, so half of our cash offerings will go to our pouch recipient, and the other half will directly support the mission and ministry of this congregation. If you wish to designate your entire offering to the community pouch, you can indicate that on a line on your check or attach a note to your cash. Checks will go to the church unless designated otherwise. You have moved the green pouches along, and I think our usher is here ready to receive them. We are always grateful for each and every one of your gifts, whether made in person, mailed, sent from your bank, or automatically charged to a credit card. One by one, your offerings, like our choir's offerings, help us to build a better world. And now we have another chance to hear our choir.
Twice a month, we share in a ritual of lighting candles of joy and concern. And during this time, you might wish to come forward and share a special joy or a milestone so that we can celebrate with you, or to share a personal concern or a loss that calls for our love and support. In just a moment, I'll invite you to come forward, and when you do, you can share your name and then briefly in a sentence or two share what is on your heart this morning. If you wish, you can also come forward and light a candle in silence. I want to remind you that our service is live streamed, and so anything that's shared aloud here in the sanctuary is being shared with our live stream viewers. We will remove this portion of the service from the video before it is archived. I invite you in this moment to just feel in your heart all of those people, known and unknown, who we hold in compassion and care, those who are very close to us physically and relationally, and those who might be very far away. I want to add into our circle of compassion and in remembrance for the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance, all of those, which is tomorrow, all of those transgender people who have lost their lives in the last year due to anti-trans violence. May we in this time affirm the sacredness of their lives and hold grief for the violence that has caused them to end. I invite us to continue in this time of meditation and prayer. Allowing yourself to settle more deeply into this time of prayer and contemplation. Being here fully in this moment. There is pain enough in this world to break our hearts, and yet we are grateful for compassion that wards off indifference. There is confusion enough in our minds to obscure moral clarity, and yet we are grateful for the capacity to hold complexity with grace. There is weariness enough in our bodies to keep us from doing all we wish to do. And yet we are grateful for the chance to slow down and to just be. And there are myths to retell. There are holidays to celebrate or reinvent. There are friends to welcome to the table. There is family to embrace and forgive. There are plates to fill with nourishing food. There are prayers of gratitude to whisper or to sing. There is this day in which to be alive, to beauty, to joy, to delight. There is this precious day. May we give thanks. And let us join in a time of quiet meditation together. This is a reading by the poet Derek Walcott, Love After Love. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. In early June, I joined a small crowd in a park on Main Street in Waterbury. Lively music was playing from a set of speakers, and a singer was about to take the microphone. She began to sing in words I hear only occasionally these days. She was singing a love song in Tagalog, the national language of the Philippines. At the edges of the park, there were booths selling foods that I typically find on my grandmother's table: pancit noodles, chicken adobo, and pork inihaw. I filled a small, maybe not so small, tray with a variety of dishes and settled down on a spot on the grass. Filipinos from around the state had gathered to celebrate the National Filipino Independence Day, which commemorates the day in 1898 when the Philippines declared its independence from Spanish colonial rule. More than anything, this was a cultural celebration, giving people of Filipino descent an opportunity to be with one another, to share food and song and dance, to feel connected to a people, a culture, and a place that for many can feel distant. Filipinos are known for their diasporic migration and are spread all across the globe. There are Filipinos living and working on almost every continent. My own family's diaspora includes relatives who have lived in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, Australia, China, Malaysia, and those who have remained in the Philippines. As part of the diaspora, Filipinos often seek one another out in order to feel a sense of home and rootedness wherever they are. The French philosopher Simone Weil has said, "To be rooted is perhaps the most important and least recognized need of the human soul." A sense of rootedness comes from connection to self, to community, to place. These connections build the spiritual self and nurture our souls. For me, sitting in that park for a couple of hours on a summer afternoon reconnected me to an important part of my soul. Soul can be a difficult word to define, kind of an abstract concept, but for me it suggests that inner aspect of the self that is sacred and core to who we are. Buddhists call it original nature. Quakers call it the inner light. Humanists call it identity or integrity. What we call it doesn't matter so much as how the soul works within us to support our sense of self and wholeness. The Quaker teacher and writer Parker Palmer describes some of the soul's functions this way. He says, The soul wants to keep us rooted in the ground of our own being. The soul wants to keep us connected to community in which we find life. The soul wants to tell us the truth about ourselves, our world, and the relation between the two. And the soul wants to give us life and wants us to pass that gift along, to become life givers in a world that deals too much death. Recognizing the needs of the soul is essential to our well-being. We are happier and more capable of generosity when we are in touch with that part of ourselves that sees clearly our truest self and connects us with the whole of life. And when we are not rooted in the ground of our being, our souls go awry. We become strangers to ourselves, as Derek Walcott writes. Taken to its extremes, this disconnection can lead to self-destructive behavior and violence towards others. Now, we can feel uprooted for all sorts of different reasons. We're in a time of transition, moving from one place to another, facing some new health challenge, losing a loved one. And certainly, times of crisis can be quite uprooting, throwing us off our center. We can become lost and unmoored, whether the crisis is a pandemic, a natural disaster, or war. I have found that the crises of these past few years have certainly been taxing on my inner resources, making me feel less grounded, and I'm sure I am not alone. This crisis-filled and fast-paced time that we live in can lead to a sense of uprootedness. Information coming to us from all directions, so many different demands for our attention. The theologian Thomas Merton writes about the spiritual danger of this frenetic pace in a way that I think has resonance for all of us. He writes, "The rush and pressure of modern life are a form, perhaps the most common form, of its innate violence. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of the activist neutralizes their work. It destroys the fruitfulness of their work because it kills the inner root of wisdom, which makes work fruitful." It kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes work fruitful. Now, this is strong language, to be sure, but I think also truth being spoken here. And I don't think you have to consider yourself an activist for these words to resonate with you. Many of us are caught in the frenzy of life. Demands are placed on our time, some of which are fulfilling and some of which just drain us away. Demands are placed on our attention that can overload our emotional capacities to be present or compassionate. The danger of this overload is emotional depletion, burnout, and the destruction of that inner root of wisdom. Anyone who has felt this depletion knows how empty and isolating it can feel. And yet, that root of inner wisdom is within us. It is that place of knowing, the place where our deepest truth resides. One could call it soul. And the good news is that root within us is never that far away. The soul is always there, close at hand. And sometimes we just need a little help to be able to find our way back. Reconnecting to self and tending to our souls becomes even more important in times like this. I am grateful to be able to take some intentional soul-tending time in the weeks ahead. During my upcoming sabbatical, I am hoping to nurture my own root of inner wisdom, to step away for a short time, 5 weeks, from the busyness of ministry and my day-to-day life to reconnect with myself, with community, with place, to rest and root in the inner home of my soul. My ancestral roots, as I have mentioned, can be traced to a land all the way on the other side of the globe, in the archipelago now called the Philippines. Both my parents were born and raised there on the island of Luzon in the same province of Batangas. They immigrated to the United States in 1975 and 1980. I have previously traveled to the Philippines on 4 occasions, twice when I was a child and twice in my young adulthood, but it's been over 16 years since I was last there. And Filipinos often take trips back to reconnect with loved ones and with the land and the waters of home. So my time away will include a 5-week pilgrimage of sorts back to the Philippines. 3 of these weeks will be spent with family, including about a dozen members of my family who now live in the United States and are also traveling back home. This is how we roll. One person says, I'm going, and then 12 other people say, I want to go. We will visit relatives, places of ancestral significance, and also take in the natural beauty and cultural offerings of the Calabarzon region of the country. And then the last 2 weeks of my pilgrimage will include learning more about Unitarian Universalist connections to the country. I'll visit with ministers and leaders of the UU Church of the Philippines in Dumaguete City, which is where the national office is located, and I'll travel to some of the rural church fellowships in that area. On this journey, I hope that I will strengthen my connection to place and the people who have made me who I am in ways known and unknown, tangible and intangible. And along the way, I hope to give my soul generous space and time to become more grounded and rooted. And this sense of rootedness is something I hope for each of you and you as a body, as a congregation. Because when we are rooted within ourselves, we're more able to be present to others. We're more able to feel a sense of wholeness. We're more receptive to joy and more able to fully engage in the work of bringing forth peace and justice in the world. Rootedness leads us back to our souls. And it's not just individuals who have souls. Communities and congregations also have a soul, a true and authentic self. The consultant Susan Beaumont defines a congregation's soul in this way: the soul is an agent of the divine spark in the institution. The soul is the authentic and truest self of the institution, the source of its divine calling, character, and destiny, the protector of institutional integrity. So while I am away, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, I'm still here for another 2 weeks, but while I am away reconnecting with my own soul and nurturing my truest and most authentic self, I have a charge for all of you. You ready to receive it? My charge is be soul detectives. So this is what I mean. Pay attention to the ways that you witness the soul of this congregation emerging. What does it feel like? How would you describe it? I shared this charge with a group of you last week during the Committee of Chairs meeting. There were about 18 people present, and I heard some very poignant observations. People shared about witnessing a young person in our congregation warmly greeting a stranger who had come in the doors, inviting them in to watch the service. There was soul in that welcoming hospitality. I heard about the soul of the congregation showing up at Monday community lunch, now being prepared in the Christ Church Parish Hall, where our volunteers greeted and served each and every person with acceptance, warmth, and neighborly love. The congregation's authentic self was felt by one person in a spiritual exploration class as a child and an adult volunteer who hadn't previously known each other became fast friends and stretched their bodies into downward-facing dog and breathed together. The soul of this congregation wants to be recognized, and so does your own soul. Be generous with yourself and with one another in the days ahead, so that you might welcome yourself to sit and rediscover the root of your inner wisdom, to feast on your life, and to allow your soul to come alive. So may it be. Let us join in our closing hymn. It's number 349 in the gray hymnal, We Gather Together.
As we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice, but carry its healing flame, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the week ahead. And please now join in reciting our unison mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home.
The feast of life awaits you. Tune down the distractions and draw your attention to the place of your soul, offering generous care to yourself and to others. And may you go in peace and return again in love. For our postlude, which you can be seated for, you are invited to, I think you're invited to sing along. Is that right, Danya? Is this an invitation to sing along? If you would like to sing along after you get a sense of this song, this is a short piece written by a Filipina songwriter and yoga meditation teacher, Jaron Pascal, who lives in France. The words in Tagalog are in the order of service. Andito na yon sa akin puso ang bawat hininga maginhawa, which translates to, here now in my heart, every breath full of ease.
We have a special guest artist joining us.